few issues that I agree with. Number one issue is the constant policing of people's pasts, what they've said in the past. I think holding people to the current standards based on the current culture. If you're looking at tweets, for instance, from 2009, and you're judging that tweet based on what the current culture or the current standards are, it's a little ridiculous, right? So going around demonizing people based on their past statements, it shuts down a conversation that could be had, right? A conversation about, oh, hey, look, society has actually progressed on this, and, look at what was okay. I mean, you have late night hosts who were in blackface not too long ago, right? But the culture has changed. I think that, society as a whole, not everyone, but society as a whole has realized, oh, well, blackface has a pretty terrible history, and maybe it's not a good idea to dress like that as like a cute little Halloween costume. But beside the point, I don't think that the culture wars are fake. I think the culture wars are taking place. The point that I'm trying to make is that oftentimes, whatever the culture war is of that moment, it is manufactured as a distraction. A perfect example will be, critical race theory, which is not taught in elementary schools. Critical race theory is a graduate level curriculum. And the fact that it's turned into some weird, like, oh, we need to ban critical race theory in elementary schools, it's ridiculous and a massive distraction that I think is intentionally meant to be a distraction from what people are really feeling frustrated about. The precariousness of their lives, of their work lives, the fact that people feel overworked, that they have no control over the work that they're doing, that they feel alienated over the work that they're doing. These are very real issues, and I think that, the fact that it's really largely been ignored by both the press and the very political leaders who were elected to represent them in the first place has led to the anger that we're seeing bubbling up both on the left and the right.
Ben, I think you wanted to make a couple comments.
Okay, I gotta stop this right here, okay? First of all, Ana, you talk about it's alienated workers? It's alienated people who do their work? People are upset at the work that they're doing? You go to work, you have a damn job, you got to do it. If you don't do your job, you're going to get fired. If you don't like your job, go someplace else. Find a job, find work that you like. That has nothing to do with the question of culture wars. What the hell does work have to do with culture wars? Has nothing to do. Unless, of course, the work that you're doing is itself involved in a cultural war, battle. That's a different story. I could understand that. All right? But then go back to the beginning of what Ana said. I mean, there is some agreement there. She was talking about, texts from the past, writings from the past, and we're judging people on that. Somebody said something before, made an off-color remark, made an off-color joke. First of all, people have to understand, it's freaking humor. It's intercoursing humor. Figure out what I'm using when I'm using the word intercoursing. Because I don't want to say the F word, of course, But that's what we're talking about here. So on that level, on the cultural war, on a cultural battle, there's some room for agreement there, I think, on the right and the left. The problem is the left doesn't want to do that because they want to go after it. And just like Ben was saying, groups don't want to speak out because they're afraid. Remember, it was a Trump voter when supposedly when they were being called and they were being asked who you were going to vote for, and they were being polled. They basically kept quiet, or they didn't say anything, or say it's the other guy. They lied about it. The silent Trump majority. And a lot of people didn't want to get into it. Like I said before, I don't give a damn. I tell people exactly who I voted for. I tell people exactly who I'm going to vote for. I tell them why. I am a Trump supporter all the way, conservative America, MAGA first, America first person. And I don't give a damn what people say about me. If they want to be my friends, fine. If not, hey, don't let the door hit you on your derriere on your way out. Okay? But what I'm saying, though, is that, like Ben was saying, is that these are the places where, you are going to try to at least, you've got to figure out where you're going to pick your battles on that social fear. Getting back to Anna's point, where we were saying, we're in agreement. Absolutely. You know what? Past things, let's not bring those things up. Cancel culture, that's coming from the left. I would like to know of an example of it coming from the right of cancel culture. Maybe it's out there. Hey, put that down in the comments if you think so. I'd like to know some examples of cancel culture where the right has tried to cancel the left from speaking out. So on that part, there could be some agreement, with Ana. Then she's talking about, critical race theory. And she's saying, this is manufactured again. They're not teaching critical race theory. It's semantics. Of course, they're not teaching the critical race theory that they're teaching in colleges, at universities, that they were doing at Harvard, at Yale, and other elite institutions or other institutions, colleges and universities around the country. All right, they're not maybe calling it critical race theory dynamics, critical race theory in modern America, critical race theory, how it started, where it's going. That's not what they're talking about. The critical race theory that these guys are talking about, it's subtle. It's subtle. It's in books. Ibrahim Kendry, this black racist, talks about babies are racist, talking about, that you need to segregate society, that every single thing that is talked about, every single thing that you do, when you breathe the air, the food you eat, who you look at, how you talk, what you hear, what you say, what you speak, it's all involves race and prejudice. And it's all meant to be on one side the oppressor, one side the oppressed. And they're teaching children right now that, guess what? Your skin color dictates. If you're the oppressor, you're the oppressed. Your skin color dictates whether you're going to succeed or not succeed. And they're doing it very, very subtly, these teachers, with books that are there for children, for teachers to read to children, for them to ask them questions, to segregate them, to tell them, you know what, you're white, you were an oppressor. He's black and brown, they were the oppressed. That's what's going on. So Ana, this is not manufactured. They're absolutely doing it. And you have your head in the sand because you're a progressive and you don't want to, partake in it or understand it or realize that it's happening. Anyways, let's continue with Ben's response to this.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a very quick note. I mean, I obviously disagree with you about critical race theory and whether it is taught in the public schools. Critical race theory, which I studied in law school, it started off as a legal theory, but it has an element of praxis that was meant to be implemented, which is why it is taught in education schools as well, and why
in elementary schools.
Yes, a very boiled down. I mean, Ibrahim X. Kendi is preaching a very boiled down version of critical race theory, and his book is assigned in elementary schools. I mean, the fact is that when you are having elementary school students who are having to check off boxes with regard to their race and then explain to each other whether they are historically privileged or not in 4th or 5th grade, that's a very dumbed down version of critical race theory. There's sort of a game that gets played with regard to legal theories that end up being boiled down. Intersectionality is another great example of this. Kimberly Crenshaw writes a very intelligent law review article about intersectionality and how you can be a member of more than one minority group and be discriminated against in a variety of ways. And then that is used as the basis for a much broader move in American political life. And then as soon as you point that out, they say, well, that's not intersectionality, it's the original law review article. That's a bit of no true Scotsman games playing. And so I object to that. And look, it is a relevant issue when you have Terry McAuliffe, who's running for governor of Virginia, literally saying in open debate that it should not be parents who are making the educational decisions for their children. It should be the people in education. I mean, that is a culture war issue that I think is of key importance to people who have kids, right?
Well, see, I mean, I think that that's part of what leads to the lack of trust in our institutions. I mean, yes, as a parent, you get to make decisions about which school you want your kid to go to. If you're uncomfortable with the public school curriculum, you can take a look at private school options. If you don't want that, you can homeschool. But who gets to be if we're talking about parents making those decisions, who gets to be the arbiter of, which parent gets to be the arbiter of what gets taught in any particular public school? I'm not really buying that they're learning about critical race theory or even a boiled down. I'm positive that, elementary schools are not learning about systemic racism. And even if they are, even if it's a boiled down version of that, learning about systemic racism is important. I think that that's something that's an issue in this country that gets ignored or completely denied, and I think that's wrong. I think that's what also leads to the division that we're experiencing.
Well, that's going to be the major culture war.
Boom, there it is. When was the big R going to be brought up? When was the big B going to be brought up? Bigotry, R for racism. Oh, and just like you said, Ana just said, I don't. Again, Ben laid it out. She has her head up, her head in the sand, and she just doesn't want to hear about it in terms of critical race theory. And then she says about the parents. You know what? It's, again, she's not for that. I don't know if she has any children. I don't know if she's married or not. But I'm just wondering and saying that, first of all, for Terry McAuliffe to say that it is not up to the state to teach my children things other than what they're supposed to be taught in school, which is, you know what? English, reading, writing, mathematics, science, geography, history. And now we can decide, okay, and those things are put out there. But they don't need to be talked about in terms of gender fluidity. And if you want to do that thing, make it an elective of some kind or whatever. And have parents be allowed to, the kid they want to send there, let them, like what they used to do in health before. Sign a little document. Yeah, you know what? My son or daughter can be there. They separate them out. Boys on one side, girls on one side. Go to health class. Learn about everything. I mean, you know what? Or do them together, whatever. But those can be electives. They do that all the time. You've got your mandatory classes. We can't our kids can't read. They can't write. They can't speak properly. They can't do math problems at an appropriate age level for their grades. But yet, we want to start dictating to them about the proper use of pronouns. They don't even know what a noun is. But you know what? Let's talk to them about pronouns. Let's talk to them about, gender. Let's talk to them about sex. Let's talk to them about gender fluidity. Let's talk to them about changing genders. Let's talk to them about, gender affirming care. Let's talk to them about, what bathrooms you're going to use, what clothes you can wear, what clothes you can't wear. Let's talk to them about intersectionality, all these other things that don't have anything to do with learning, going out there, finding a great job, okay, progressing with life, nothing like that at all. That's what that's a state that I says, and it's fine for other people. Yeah, let the elites, let the teachers, let the state teach our children what needs to be taught. And the parents, it's none of your damn business. Stay out of their way. The state's got your children. That's what Ana is basically arguing.
Issue, right? Because the fact is that I, as a parent, believe that if you're going to teach...
You think there's no systemic racism?
I believe that it depends on how you define systemic racism. So if you're talking about legal regimens of racism, no. If you're talking about history has after effects, of course. So I think there's a real problem with semantic overload in a lot of our political conversations. And when people say systemic racism, sometimes what they mean by systemic racism is history has consequences. You can't have 150 years of, 300 years of slavery followed by Jim Crow and that not have after effects, which of course is true. And sometimes what they mean is that every inequality in American public life is due to some systemic inequity that is currently taking place in the United States, which I think is absolutely 100% false.
I mean, we certainly see that playing out in our criminal justice system. Are you going to deny that, or are you going to say that, let's say, African Americans or Latinos are just inherently more criminal? Or
I'm not going to say either of those things. I'm going to say that
so
as
why
an
are they overrepresented in our prisons?
I mean,
especially when you consider...
The reason that they're overrepresented in our prison is because they're doing more of the crime. That's why. That's exactly why. Blacks are doing crime at much, much greater levels than whites. Hispanics are doing criminal activities and committing crimes at much, much greater rates than whites. Why is it, for example, that, you would see like Asians aren't as high in terms of that? Why is it that people from India, people from Pakistan, people from why? People from Europe, why aren't they doing criminal acts? Because culturally it's different. The culture, the environment, lack of fathers in the family, lack of parental teaching, lack of teaching morality. All of those things have an effect. That's why. You just lost big on that one, Ana.
Maybe beyond the scope of our conversation, but the answer is because not all groups commit crimes at the same level. That has nothing to do with genetics. That has everything to do with circumstances.
Could you guys hold those thoughts on education? Because I do want to get back to some of that too, but let me move on to something.
So anyways, that was a pretty long thing there. I know I got a little bit, overzealous with the reaction, but I just want what's up. I'm sure you guys were the same way, right? You want to basically, get into the video there, and you want to be up on that stage and saying the same thing, and countering the points in terms of the culture wars. So again, there's a divide there. There absolutely is. There's a progressive, moderate, socialist, Marxist, divide between that and conservatism. It's going to be there. It's going to stay there. The divide is going to get bigger. Maybe we can build some bridges of commonality on certain issues, but not when they have some emotional attachment, as I talked to, before. So this one here, I believe, Anna had some of her points, but boy, you know what? When you talk about it, that's not the points, all right, that are formed from the conservative side. And if you look at what Ben was talking about, he was basically making a case that, yes, there are demarcations. There are places where the culture war, the culture battles are extreme. And to basically poo-poo it or to say, I don't believe that that's really happening, is basically, as I said, is sticking your head in the sand or sticking your head up the derriere someplace, all right? So I give this one here, part 3. This one goes to Ben Shapiro as well. So far, it's Ben Shapiro 3. Ana Kasparian comes in with the big 0. All right, thanks for watching. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscription button, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? You disagree? Love to hear your thoughts. And I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.